Those who pay extra principal payments against their mortgages are making a $100,000 mistake on the average or more. In this episode, I'm going to clear up a lot of misunderstandings out there because one of my number one watched YouTube videos has over 1.4 million views, is how you can actually pay off your home mortgage or any mortgage on any piece of real estate, not by sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. You'll actually get it paid off 2.5 years faster on the average than any method of sending extra principal payments against the mortgages, okay? And I'll prove it to you in this episode, so get ready. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for north of 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower their authentic wealth. I've been very blessed and honored to have authored 12 books thus far, all bestsellers. My very first book, called Missed Fortune, because of the fortunes people miss out on when they simply don't know what they don't know. Chapter 1 of that book was titled The $25,000 Mistake, being made by millions of Americans. That was a chapter that illustrated that Americans who are sending extra principal payments against their mortgages or taking out a 15-year amortized mortgage instead of a 30-year amortized mortgage, they're making a $25,000 mistake. That was way back 20, 25 years ago on an average mortgage of $150,000. Now fast forward to an average mortgage of $600,000. The mistake is $100,000. Anybody who is sending extra principal payments against their mortgages are missing out on at least $100,000 by doing that. So get ready in this episode. I don't care if you paid off your mortgage in 6 years or 12 years or 17 years, sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. Way to go. Okay. All I'm going to prove to you is you could have done that 2 to 2.5 years sooner, using this method by not sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. Way to go. I have a lot of people say, well, I paid off my house in 12 years. Well, you could have paid it off in 9.5 with the same money. And so watch to understand what I'm talking about. Folks, to understand how money works, first of all, we need to talk about the key elements of a prudent investment. When we set aside money, we want to make sure that we can access that money when we need it. Okay, liquidity. Now, if you put money into a house or a piece of real estate, whether you pay it off or pay cash or whether you're paying extra principal payments, you're giving up liquidity on that money. That's why I don't do that. I keep all of my real estate equity separated so that it's liquid. Because when you need the money out of a paid off piece of real estate, or even money out of a piece of real estate that has a lot of equity in it, usually when you need it the worst, it's the hardest to get because you've lost your job, you're disabled, or whatever, and now you have to sell the property. That may take a while, you may take a hit, or you have to qualify for a mortgage in order to do that. I learned that lesson. No, I keep my real estate equity separated because I want it to be liquid, because money inside of real estate equity, okay, that's not liquid. Second is safety. You can lose money, the equity in your real estate. Your real estate could go down in value. In 2008, when my house went down in value from $1.5 million to $1.1 million, it dropped $400,000. I didn't lose one dime on that, because my money was not in the house. That $400,000 was separated in a max funded IUL policy, earning twice as much as the mortgage was costing me. I could have peeled off 50% of the interest I was earning and make my mortgage payment. If I had left it in the property, I would have lost $400,000 for several years before I finally recouped it. Okay. I also do it to earn a rate of return because I'm my own banker. Banks and credit unions pay you interest by borrowing your money. Are they just a benevolent institution? Do they put your money in a vault? No. They're willing to pay you interest because they're making more interest than they're charging you. If they stopped paying interest, they would wither up and die. A bank or credit union's greatest assets are their liabilities. Do you understand that? Would you hire an employee for $50,000 if that employee made you an extra $100,000? Okay, that's 100% return on employment cost. Would you buy a widget machine for $50,000 if that widget machine made you an extra $100,000? I'll do that all day long. That's a return on equipment cost. That's what I'm talking about here. So let me show you how this works. I've helped thousands of people get out of debt. Now, there are smart and quick ways to get out of debt. And a lot of those methods are, well, why don't you just bite the bullet, take out a 15-year amortized mortgage instead of a 30-year, and you'll pay off your house in 15 years in half the time. Okay, that's smart. It's quick, okay? But I could show you how to pay off that 30-year mortgage in 12 and a half years with the same amount of money you're going to use to pay off the house in 15 years. And people, they don't seem to understand what I just said. Same amount of money, but I take the differential between a 30-year amortized mortgage and a 15-year amortized mortgage, okay? And I sock that away plus the tax savings you will achieve during the first 15 years of a 30-year mortgage, and I put that into a compounding account tax-free that's earning a rate of return that ends up being usually double the net cost of a mortgage, and I get out of debt. I'll pay off the 30-year mortgage in 12 and a half years. Using the same amount of money, people are going to pay it off in 15 years, and I end up with an extra $100,000. That's why this episode, it's a $100,000 mistake. Okay, you're missing out on $100,000. So that's smart and quick. There's smarter and quicker ways. I'll show you that. But the smartest and quickest way to get out of debt is not in any way, shape, or form sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. And I'm going to prove it to you here. So stay with me. See, my definition of out of debt is when I have enough money, so to speak, in my right-hand pocket here, that any time I can access that money with an electronic funds transfer or phone call, and I can totally, within a minute or two, pay off my entire mortgage balance on my real estate. I keep my real estate equity separated for 14 major reasons that I list on my channel here. Because it's liquid, it's safe, it's earning a rate of return greater than the cost of the funds. Why would I fire an employee that's making me double or triple what they're costing me? That's stupid, okay? If you don't understand what I just said, you're going to be missing out. So let's show you the smartest and quickest way. I keep my real estate equity separated. There's 14 major reasons why I do that. I don't have time in this episode to go through it. But see, I have an interest-only mortgage on most of my properties, sometimes an amortized loan. But this amortized loan is an interest rate that is tax-deductible if you do it correctly, okay? And so the tax deduction is because even if I file a standard deduction, okay, then you say, well, most people take standard deductions, so you can't do that anymore. Well, most of my clients, it behooves them to itemize deductions because they're paying 10% tithing to their church. And so if you add interest on your real estate on top of that, that's way greater than the standard deduction. Or what I've done for years is I use my home mortgage money for business purposes, and now you can deduct the interest off of your business tax return. There's nothing wrong with you borrowing against your house for business purposes. Hello? I always make sure I can tax deduct it. So if I borrow at 6% tax deductible interest in my tax bracket, at 33% combined federal and state tax bracket, it's only a net cost of 4%, okay? And I know where I can make double that, at least 8% or more tax-free, okay? So over here in my tax-free fund, my max-funded IUL policy, I'm earning compound interest tax-free. If this is earning 8 and my net cost of my mortgage is 4, I am now my own banker. I'm making twice as much as the employee is costing me. I don't save money by firing the employee, by paying off the mortgage, okay? It's costing me if I do that. If you don't understand what I just said, you're going to miss out from now on, okay? So let me show you this. Years ago, I had people bringing, there's this software that they spent $800 for. This software was so amazing. It would show you which credit card you should pay off first, the 12% interest one or the 18% interest one. That's not rocket science. And so, the software would say, well, take your discretionary dollars that you have over and above what you need to, pay your bills and live, and pay off your highest credit card first, and then your next, and then your next, and then your automobile loan. And as you're doing all of this, keep plowing what you're saving against your mortgage. And it showed that you would pay off a 30-year mortgage in 12 and a half years. This is not rocket science, yeah. And then you take that money that you were paying in all those house payments and extra principal, and you put it into a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, you'd end up with $987,000 before tax. After tax, that might only be worth $600,000 or $700,000. Okay, now that's a good way. That's a good way. Now I said, well, what I do is I keep that separated because then I can access the money out of there. If you put it in your mortgage, you can only borrow it back or sell your property to get your money. Here, I put it into a max funded IUL policy, what I call a laser fund. I can access that money any time I want, if in an emergency with an electronic funds transfer or phone call. So I have enough money compounding at a rate of return greater than the cost of the mortgage in 10.2 years to pay off the mortgage. And now I can pay off the mortgage 2.3 years sooner. So I pay off the mortgage sooner by about 2.5 years. And then if I socked away that difference, I'd end up with $1,245,000 in the IUL policy, which is tax-free. That's way better. $1.2 million compared to $987,000 before tax. That's only worth $600,000 or $700,000 after tax. I end up with as much as twice as much money. But that's not what I do. When I have enough money in 10.2 years to pay off my mortgage, I physically don't do it. Why would I fire an employee that's costing me less than what they're making me? I'm making twice as much. So by not paying off the mortgage, it stays here in the red, and I end up with $1,800,000 tax-free. That's a one-off. I don't do a one-off. I repeat the process. By repeating the process, refinancing my house or my real estate every 5 years and doing this, I end up with $4.2 million, okay? Some people just don't get this. So the good way, I end up with $535,000 net. The better way is $735,000. The best way is $1.2 million. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Never let it rest. A good gets better, better gets best. Now, so this is the difference and why I keep my real estate equity separated. So if you're sitting there justifying what you've done, well, I paid off my house by sending extra principal payments. I paid it off in 12 years or 7 years or 6 years. Way to go. That's good. But it's a far cry from the best way. Hello? What I'm saying is that you could have paid off that house instead of in 12 years, in 9.5. Instead of 6 years, maybe in 4.5 years. Using the same money. You're missing out on $100,000 or more by any method of sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company, okay? It's like saying, here, Mr. Banker, here's an extra $100 or $1,000 or $2,000 this month. Don't pay me any interest on that. If I want it back, I'll borrow it back on your terms and prove there's a need why I should have it. Sounds sort of stupid, because it is, in my opinion. Okay, you're giving up the rate of return on that money, and you could be getting your house paid off about 2 to 2.5 years faster, not sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. And I can prove that to you mathematically. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago issued a 38-page report clear back, I think it was 2006, because my second book was showing how you can pay off your house much faster and not make a $100,000 mistake on a $600,000 house. And they did a big study, and they said, you're right, Mr. Andrew, Americans are making the wrong choice if they're sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company. They called it a misallocation of funds. They said you would, if you change that allocation and put that money instead of against your mortgage in a compounding account tax-free, instead of sending it to the mortgage company, you would reap a substantial gain. Why? Because you're making more interest compounding tax-free than the net cost of a tax-deductible mortgage. I don't care if you can tax deduct it. Did you hear that? If I borrow money at 6% and I can't tax deduct it, and I make 9% tax-free, that's 50% more than the cost of the funds. I will still pay off the mortgage probably 1.5 to 2 years faster than giving the money to the mortgage company if I can't tax deduct the interest. But I always make sure I can, and that just sweetens the deal. They call this rather conservative way. Here's the math. You can stack up an extra $1 million by doing what I'm talking about. Every $100,000 of equity I keep separated from my house, if I borrow that at 6.5% interest, okay? And I make sure I can deduct it either on my business return or LLC or whatever, and I only put that to work at 8.5. Some people will go, wait a minute, that's only a 2-point spread. You'll do all that for 2%? And I go, absolutely. Why? Math does not lie. I'm coming out $4,100 in the first year. If I do it for 30 years, never refinance this piece of property, I end up with an extra $1 million. An extra $1 million versus if I leave the money in the property. Now, if you don't understand this, bless your heart, you can do it your way, which might be a good way. The message here is when people comment on my channel and they thump themselves on their chest and they go, well, I paid off my mortgage in 10 years, in 12 years. I'm going, way to go. You missed the point. I'm saying if you paid off your mortgage in 10, you could have had it paid off in 7.5 or 8 years by doing it my method, and you'd have liquidity and safety. And they say, well, the only way to go is with a mortgage-free house. Well, I have millions of dollars, okay, of real estate, so to speak, and it's all mortgaged to the hilt. And I consider it paid off because anytime with an electronic funds transfer phone call, I can transfer the money out of this pocket and pay off the mortgages. I am out of debt anytime I want to be. But if I did that, I would be firing employees and making me double or triple what they're costing me. That's not smart if you're a business owner. So I can prove it to you mathematically, but if you want to learn more, you can study stories in my book or see actual illustrations. My book is The Laser Fund, okay? How to diversify and create the foundation for tax-free retirement, but also how to manage your real estate. There's a whole chapter here on the right brain side that gives 5 or 6 stories of how savvy owners of real estate paid off their house the way that I'm talking about way faster than sending extra principal payments against the mortgage company. And they continue to earn rates of return, double, triple the net cost of the mortgage, okay? So you can go to laserfund.com or click on the link below, because if you buy this on Amazon, thank you, but it's going to be $20 up to $60 plus shipping. I'll pay for the book. I'll gift you a copy free. But when you go to laserfund.com, I do require a little skin in the game. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost. I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. And if you like to, listen and learn or watch and learn, there's those formats available for your investment. But you can read the left brain side, all the charts and graphs, or the right brain side, which are stories. Or you can use your whole brain, your right brain and your left brain, okay? But you can also schedule an appointment, no cost, no obligation, to have a certified IUL professional create illustrations showing you how you can do what I'm talking about with a properly structured, max-funded, indexed universal life, which is where I put my serious cash. It's where I keep my real estate equities separated to earn tax-free rates of return that are 100, 200, 300% more than the cost of the mortgages on my real estate. And if you're understanding what I'm saying, you will understand how to become your own banker, and you'll come out substantially ahead than any method of sending extra principal payments to the mortgage company and sitting there with no mortgage on the real estate. Why? Because that real estate's going to appreciate or depreciate regardless of whether it's mortgage to the hilt or free and clear.